Welcome to the Remain Indoors podcast, where we'll be looking at some lighter news from around the internet, having a grumble when required, and talking about the ways we're keeping ourselves entertained at home. Remain indoors. I'm your host, Richard Spanners Ready, and I'm joined in the shed by Matt Two Rumpets. Let's get a side-by-side on the video there, Matt. How's it going, buddy?
It's going pretty well. How about yourself? I mean, we had some nice weather. Of course, we went out and marched on Saturday, so we're all sitting here waiting to find out if we're going to die or not.
Well, yeah, risk-reward there, isn't it? Risk-reward between obviously compromising some social distancing and standing up for an important issue. It's very hard to cast judgment on that, so I won't. And it's definitely a slippery slope for anyone to kind of, I think people have got to go with what they feel is right at the moment. I wish, in a perfect world, that we could all be socially distant and that we're not gathering in big crowds. Simply from a scientific point of view, I still feel like there's a lurking danger that people are starting to get relaxed about. But then as well, there's an overwhelming urge to bring about the change I've been wishing for like the best part of 4 decades. You just go, oh, the timing's bad, sometimes change is inconvenient. It's really, really hard to nail down the balance between going on a march and trying to be socially distant.
Yeah, it is. And we talked about it and we thought about it. The interesting thing I will say for those who are, I'm sure everyone's so concerned for my health here, was that everyone was masked. Like, I think there were at least 15,000 people at this thing. And we maybe saw 10 people the whole time who didn't have a mask actively covering their face. And of those, half were taking a drink of water or something like that. But what really killed me about this is that earlier in the day, I had gone out for a run. So first of all, it was incredibly hot that day. It was
got to mention the run. You've mentioned it now, so it counts double.
Did I mention I'm down to like 76 kilos now?
Don't.
Did I mention that? Okay, I don't want to mention it because that'll make you feel bad. So I'm not going to mention that I'm down to maybe even 75 and a half, but whatever. That doesn't matter. I went out for a run. And have you ever been out and doing something and just said to yourself, I wonder if I could do Y instead of X?
Sure. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Always try and vary stuff.
So on the hottest run of the year and the most humid conditions possible, I was out and I was feeling pretty good. I was like, I wonder if I could make it twice around the park. And so it turns out that I could, which for Americans is like 8.5 miles. And for you all is like 13 kilometers, I think.
Yeah, but what do you mean by make it? Do you just mean like physically get round without stopping?
Yeah, like run 2 laps at the park instead of 1. So I wound up running like 13 kilometers, about the same pace. And then we walked, a mile and a half to the protest. And I had thought when I set out on this adventure that the protest was like a static thing.
Oh, right.
But it turns out that it wasn't. It was actually a march. And so I wound up marching another hour and a half till we got to the edge of Brooklyn. And I have to admit that had I known that was how it was going to turn out, I might not have taken that second lap because I am still trying to recover from this.
When was that? That was on Sunday? On Saturday. Yeah. Okay. And I mean, obviously, the mood in America is more heated because it was, you're the epicenter of these issues. But you can see that in the UK, we've had the echo and like the aftershock has gone out around the world. And you would have caught maybe in the news that in Bristol, a bunch of protesters went with like grappling hooks and stuff and pulled down a statue of a slaver in the city centre. I did not know we had statues commemorating slavers in the UK. So yeah, that was a shock to me.
My favorite part of that, aside from the fact that they chucked it in the Avon River, was that someone went and updated the Google Maps location afterwards with a statue right in the middle of the river. I just thought that was hilarious and appropriate too, I think.
Yeah, and again, that's like a tricky balance between, okay, it's absolutely correct that we don't have that anymore. I mean, if I knew that there was statues of slavers around, I think I would have been pretty vocal about that. That's not one of those things where you go, oh, it's neutral. On the one side, we're commemorating history. No, No, just don't have
You're
statues of
glorifying
slavers.
bad things.
Yeah, stick it in the vault of a museum or something like that. Put it in some
Bingo.
textbooks. But
Yeah,
yeah, don't have a memorial to it. It's absolutely ridiculous. And now my next question is, are there any others? Where are all the others? But then again, from a like a health and safety point of view, I was looking at that and I was going, ooh, that's not quite the right way. Oh, fellas, no, that's not everything about that, even from the lifting positions as they were rolling it down to the river to, you know, the lack of health and safety whilst pulling it down. But I imagine great moments in history don't generally adhere to the health and safety handbook. So I'm conflicted. I'm conflicted as well when looking at that, the rights and wrongs of it. It's clearly deliberately anarchic, you know, so they have deliberately broken the law. I don't think anyone is disputing that they're going against general law and order to do that. That's a very different thing to, is it right or wrong?
Yeah, well, sometimes legal and right from a moral or ethical point of view don't line up. Of course, obviously, we have Dr. Martin Luther King, the entire civil rights movement here,
Yeah,
as a major example of civil disobedience as a means to a better, fairer world. To a certain extent, and you said something that ticked me over.
Oh, I thought so it wasn't me that upset you.
Yeah,
Okay.
you ticked my brain over, and I got distracted by the fact that Summers is in the chat.
Hi, Summers.
And I failed to note my point down, and now I can't make it, which is a really, really upsetting to me. Maybe the difference between history and statues glorifying things is like, it's, oh, I do remember health and safety. There we go. There was a thread on Twitter. You may have seen it because I retweeted it. Someone who's an Egyptologist talking about a way to bring down an obelisk, because she was an Egyptologist and knew how to bring one down without heavy machinery, because that was the only option one had when one was in Egypt 3,500 years ago, I presume. And she mentioned that there may be a Confederate monument shaped like an obelisk in a certain town. And what was interesting to me is that she mentioned jokingly the Washington Monument, which is 550 feet high, and everyone was saying, "Oh, it's you keep talking about tearing down the Washington Monument," even though the last tweet in the thread, and does this bug you too? It bugs me. Last tweet in the thread was very clearly, "Don't tear down the Washington Monument." Like, I am joking, and still, like, people seized on it and said, "Rrr." And I actually got into an well, let's call it a discussion to make me look less aggro white male.
Okay.
With someone who had tweeted that. I was like, you literally, and they were like, well, we deleted it, but still, it's dangerous. She's recommending a dangerous thing. And I'm like, oh, come on. Driving a car is dangerous. Walking out of your house is dangerous. I'm fairly sure that if people follow the directions, it's no more dangerous than any other kind of thing that we tend to do on a daily basis. My wife, for example, cut her finger off.
Okay, that's a nice diversion. Let's hear why your wife cut her finger off.
Well, I was talking about, I gave her that knife sharpener, right?
Oh, yeah.
And she's in love with the knife sharpener. And the other day, I'm in the office and my daughter comes, tick, 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 tick. You need to come to the kitchen now. And I come to the kitchen and my wife has, just this nasty, just horrible.
Is she
horrible
screaming? Is she screaming?
No, she wasn't. She was basically, will you look at this massive gaping bloody wound and tell me if I need to go to the hospital or not? Now, I'm not a doctor. And so my advice was, well, maybe. Depends. I mean, it looked like it could use a stitch or maybe one, maybe two stitches at most.
So what did
but
you
it
do?
was also not big enough. And of course, I couldn't tell how deep it was because, all of the blood. Right. Anyway.
Yeah.
So there I am going, that was Saturday, actually. She did this. And so, like, even using a knife in your kitchen is dangerous, but I'm convinced, like, you as a dude, I know you must have gone to great lengths to get out of doing things around your household in the past.
Yeah. What's your point here, Matt?
I think she did it so she didn't have to do the dishes that night.
No, your wife didn't slice her finger open to do the dishes. Hello to the live chat. Sam Watley says, Spanner's spots an escape route and he's taking it. No, I'm going to come back. I'll come back to the monument. But in our house, I am like the dedicated cuts and scrapes guy. I'm the field medic in our house. So whenever we hear like of a kid tumbling outside because my son has recently, he's decided that he wants to go from the trampoline and see how many things he can clear. And the thing is, he could go to one side onto grass, but he insists on doing it on the concrete. And then he's like, oh, look, I've got a gash on my leg. So I'm always the one who has to do it because I'm first aid trained, done my field medic stuff in the military. And my wife's always like, you're the medic guy, you do it. And I hate it. I hate that moment of where they're screaming and it could be nothing, especially when it's in the mouth. It could be nothing, or it could be like a horrible cut or gash. And then you've got to clear the wound away. And then you have to look at the horror of it. And little daughter managed to fall and scrape herself in like 5 separate places, falling off her scooter. So 5 separate leaks in her body. Because normally you keep the red stuff on the inside. She had blood coming out of 5 separate points, and I'm trying to calm her down. As soon as they're fine until they realize they're bleeding, and then they go, ah! So I'm trying to sit and calm her down, gently, and I end up putting 5 separate like plasters and 1 bandage on her. But yeah, that's always me who has to do all that, and I hate it. It makes me I hate the moment, like when you drop your phone, and you go, is it smashed or not smashed? It's that moment, except it's with your precious spawn.
Yeah, actually one of the most terrifying things is our trip to Italy. The first day we were there and out walking, my daughter tripped on a pavement,
Ugh.
fell, and managed to find 1 pointy bit of metalwork.
Oh God!
And put like a little pyramid hole in her head. And so I was taking some pictures, and I'm like, where did my family go? And they're sat on the curb by where this happened, and my daughter just has blood streaming down her face, and I'm like, oh my God, what happened? She tripped and fell on the pavement looking around, like 15 minutes into our first walk in Italy. So I got to immediately test out my command of Italian by running to the nearest pharmacy, which is 500 meters away at least, and attempting to buy Band-Aids in Italian. Turns out I was not up to it, but fortunately the person behind the counter spoke English, so.
Okay, good. Yeah, you speak a bit louder and see if you can get it through. There are some countries in Europe that will be really accommodating. They know they're a tourist hotspot. They understand that English is, a more commonly spoken, and they'll be generous with their speaking of English. And then there's France. So, yeah, there's those things. We weren't running away. From the statue stuff. It's difficult on a generally light-hearted show to kind of delve into those subjects, Matt. But honestly, I'm so angry and sort of wound up. It's so like consuming, and it feels like either a very important or a very frustrating time. So it's either going to be very important, and this is the moment where we finally turn around and we say, okay, well, in America, the issues you're talking about are police brutality, but then there's a broader issue, isn't there? There's a broader issue of just, well, how do you recognize and how do you change racism in general? It's human beings are tribal. My feeling has always been that there is something inherent in our genes and DNA that makes you less trusting of people who are genetically further away from you. So how do we kill that as a civilized society? You're only ever going to kill that at the grassroots when you are every single day watching out for those very small and often subtle signs of racism that just go unchallenged. Thousands and thousands and thousands of times a day, someone can discriminate racially, and they won't go, I don't like black people. They will just come up for a reason of why to pick white person over black person, whether to ignore a complaint or uphold a complaint. And it's those thousands of cuts that make up that one big whole. And I don't think that these marches are gonna tackle that core problem. And I just feel like I'm gonna be ultimately frustrated when in 3 months' time the news cycle isn't about this. The news cycle is about something entirely different.
Well, the news cycle is what it is, at least here in the United States. Well, when you describe what you describe, I think also of the systems that we have in place that have created this inequity in society, this sort of subtle and automatic and unthinking racism. And what's good about this situation is that it is being profiled and become public in a way, and at least in the United States, from the polls that I've seen, it would appear that a majority of Americans are beginning to recognize that fact, to admit to that fact. Not all of them, but at least a majority, which is a big improvement over any other polling, any other time things like this have happened. But the question remains is, will we see change at a system level from this event? And the outcome is very much up in the air. We've had other places and times. We've gotten into, my whole thing with HBO, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it's come up. Yeah.
It's come up before, right? I love to talk about it. So once again, the wife was going to cancel the HBO. And she's like, you finished Westworld, right? And I pretty much have. So that's bad. But I started watching Treme, which is set in New Orleans, which is one of my wife's favorite cities, one of our favorite cities to go to. We love it. It's like one of those like, oh, when we retire, maybe we'll move there because we like it so much. Do you have destinations like that?
Nah, we're all right here. But yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Like, all I want to do is go back to Essex. But whenever I say that, people mock me. I want to move back to the Essex countryside in a small, just outside of Chelmsford somewhere. And it just seems like such a low key ambition that I rarely mention it.
Right. But okay, so you got the same thing. You're like, okay, when we're down to just doing the stuff we mostly want to do, we go find a small cottage in a country with a little pub I can walk to, and life will be beautiful. It's not really the case. But New Orleans is one of those cities. We start watching Treme, and she starts enjoying it. Now, this is good for me because it means I get another month of HBO because there's 3 seasons of it.
Oh, and she wants to watch it, so it's okay that you keep it.
Now she's invested in the story. So I have another month of paid for HBO due to my sheer cleverness. But as part of that, we went back because our daughter had just been born about the time Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans. And we went, Spike Lee did a lovely documentary about the impact of that. And we've been watching it because, she's 15 and it's like, now like the serious learning is starting to happen for her. Not just the 2 + 2 = 4, but like we're learning about history. We're doing giant research projects on geopolitical issues, and global warming, all the stuff that one needs to learn about to be an informed citizen. So we decided we will watch this so that she can learn about it. And the just blatant discrimination that occurred after that, both at the federal level against the city, and then in the city and the developers and the money they made against the Black population in New Orleans, it's mind blowing. And it was so little covered at the time.
Yeah.
You talk about being filled with rage. You're just like, this is the music of America. This is like my cultural heritage right here, writ large, our cultural heritage, not just mine personally. And as a musician, I feel that deeply and keenly. And they just took a wrecking ball to it.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like you said, like those little decisions at the lower levels, it's a death by 1,000 cuts. And what I would love, any white folk listening, I'm being racist. I'm singling out the white folk. Go and ask your BAME friends, your black and minority ethnic friends. Just ask them about the times where they felt there was a race issue and they were either ignored or they felt like they couldn't make a fuss. Ask them about the times where they were made to feel perhaps like they were being paranoid, or they were made to feel like they were playing the race card. Ask them about those times and empathize with it. And then look out for those situations wherever you are. Yes, I get the marches. I understand it, and I understand the outrage. I would also say look at the micro, not just the macro. I don't know if I'm using those in the right way. Also, glad the statue's down. Not happy about, it just being yanked with high tension grappling ropes and stuff like that. Please adhere to health and safety if I've got anything to say about it. Hopefully, we get to a place where we can be lawful and peaceful and still tackle these issues, like obviously not having statues of slavers dotted around our country. And by the way, I have heard, that there was campaigns to get rid of this statue. But the one that really got to me, and tell me if this is true or not, was that there was a move to just put a plaque underneath the statue to explain, by the way, this is a baddie, he did bad things, here are the bad things he did. And that was rejected as well. So that then, it starts to feel, I'm sure it's not, but it starts to then feel like they're actively hiding, what this guy was about from people. So yeah, if I get a vote, no more statues of horrible slavers, please. That would be absolutely amazing. Matt, on a much lighter note,
Sorry.
What?
Sorry.
Are you coming back? You're going to drag it back, aren't you? Come on then. Here we go. Go on.
I'm sorry, because I know this is what we're not supposed to be.
I was doing a nice
to divert people.
I was doing a nice wrap up. You're ruining my wrap up. Fine, unwrap it.
No, I was literally apologizing for dragging us down this intellectual path. It was just a quick apology because I know I was responsible. I will admit responsibility. We don't even have to play the game. My fault.
Oh, right. Do you know what? I honestly thought you were about to apologize on behalf of white people there. And I was like, no, Matt, no, please don't do that. There's serious implications for doing that. But no, it's all right. I think it's reflective of the anger we've all been feeling. And it would be dishonest of us to sit here and say that we weren't feeling angry about it, because I think it has affected every corner of how I feel about everything right now. And I am on the verge of getting in arguments online. I'm on the verge of getting in arguments with people in the street, just because I'm mad as hell, and I think we should be. Do you know what else makes me mad, Matt?
What?
Having to get up in the morning for actual work. I know there's key workers out there. Thank you very much for having to do all those essential services. Leaving your house every day during this pandemic, stocking our shelves, driving the trucks, getting our deliveries to us, and of course our healthcare workers. But I would say the majority of us have been either trying to work from home or have been furloughed. And I've done all my work from home, and I've been off air, not going into the BBC studios for 8 weeks, 8 horrible weeks. I have hated not being on air. I've loved actually being at home and spending more time with the kids. I cannot lie. I think we've made the best of our time here. But I was faced with actually having to go back into the studio and go, right, well, I can't pick my start time. There's a definite time the show starts, and I had to get up at 7, which is alien territory, shave, make myself presentable to the world, comb my hair, which is an ever increasingly difficult prospect. I should show you the rear actually at some point. I've got a full on mullet at the back. No. Yeah, no, wife's
party in the back.
No, wife's honestly, party in the back, is that a mullet saying?
Business up front, party in the back. Yeah, mullet.
Do you know what? I'm getting there. No, I'd never heard that. That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So here on the stream, I've kind of just slicked it to the side, and you've got the headphones, so it hides the horror. But I've shown you guys in our Missed Apex group and on Dad Hub, I've shown you the photos of the full horror out of the shower, and been advised by my PR man not to post those pictures on Instagram, because I nearly did.
Yeah. Summers is saying I have the same haircut as 14-year-old Summers at this point, and I think that's pretty much everybody. I saw someone said the first time you go out in public and you see other people, you realize they have one of 3 haircuts. They have bald.
Yeah.
They have brave do-it-yourself attempt, or they have Chewbacca.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going down the Chewbacca thing, and my wife is fully getting fed up of it. So as I said on Missed Apex, I've been wearing these sports bands, these sort of headbands.
Oh yeah.
To when you wake up in the morning and I've got really wiry hair, so it's like a scarecrow. So I just put that on, and it keeps it in it just looks like a footballer. But yeah, wife's getting utterly fed up, and she has now said she wants to take the clippers to the back and the side and just attempt to blend it in. And since she's literally the only person in the world who my looks matter to, I'm like, okay, if you want to have a go, have a go.
But she should have a go on the live stream.
Oh, no, not a do it live haircut. No, don't even suggest stuff like that, because she would.
Okay, I won't suggest it then. I'm sure this chat room is not interested at all in that.
Okay, well, you'll see the results. So my son, very similar situation. He has inherited my terrible wiry hair. So with him, what we're doing is he wants a mohawk, and we've said, no, you can't have a mohawk, but we are going to do a 0 cut all the way up to, the top. When you have a short back and sides, the sides bit is going to be a 0 bare blade razor. But then we're going to leave the back long as well, and the top, so that he's got this kind of wide mohawk going down his back. Because we saw it in a TV program, Future Man. One of the characters, Talk, had that haircut. So we're going to do that. So I said to my wife, if you're so desperate to shave the sides and the back of my head, why can't I also have the haircut we're planning for Tree Face? And she just went, he is 10. That's why. And I went, oh, come on. That's no fun. No fun at all.
No fun at all. The chat room has responded positively to my non-suggestion
Yeah.
with large sums of money, and someone's even suggested that you could raise money for charitable causes should you choose to. I mean, I don't know. I'm sorry I brought it up. It was really just more of a joke than anything else. But apparently they now think it's a good idea.
People throw the word betrayal around, don't they? Throw that around quite loosely. But yeah, no, I don't think I want to. I think I want that to be, I think it's like, scratching your butt. I think you do that in private. So of course you will see the results here, whether I look like Talk from Future Man. But yeah, it was a thing where I went, oh, people are going to see me. There are staff in the building, obviously social distancing there's limits on how many people can be in a room at the same time. But the prospect of actually seeing people and presenting myself to the world, I thought, oh my God. So I think in the end I went for just slicked down as much as I could and or a cap. But the whole just routine of going in, not being in charge as well, going in there and definitely having a producer who is in charge. It was just a horrible awakening after 2 months. Like whenever you have like a couple of weeks off and you go back to the work environment, there's always an adjustment. But after 2 months, I was like, you can't tell me what to. Oh, you literally can. Okay, I'll do what you said.
Yeah, you do get sort of used to being in charge a bit more of your own destiny when you're stuck at home with the kids and the family. And I don't know. I really am interested to see when and if we get back to a fully open, vaccinated, otherwise generally it's okay to go back out and live more or less like we were living. I'm really curious to see how many office jobs do not go back to actual offices because people are more productive and prefer, for the most part, working out of their home. Because I think that's a potentially huge societal change that we're looking at.
Okay, so chat room, for you white collar workers in the chat room who are able to like work from home, how productive have you been at home? So I started working at home in September and I was pleasantly surprised that I could sit here and work as if I was in an office and work on all my projects. However, there's a lot of other demands here. So I nip in to get a cup of coffee. The cat wants your attention. The wife thinks you should be doing a job instead of them. Dad, look at my art. Isn't it wonderful? No, it's not wonderful. You're 6. Your art is as poor as it's always been. So, it's not just how disciplined you are. It's the demands that the home environment puts on you.
Yeah, and I was going to say, by way of that question, do recall that if we're talking about this means kids are most likely back in school part or full-time as well. So if you're going to sit there and say, I got nothing done because my kids needed constant tending to, we're just going to remove that as a consideration. We're positing that everyone's back to school and things are mostly open again. So I'm really genuinely interested to see what changes as a result of this. How many people are like, I don't miss having 45-minute commutes each way on the subway, for example.
Oh, it would be nice. I think that would be nice if I always felt very demoralized by the commute. I always felt very demoralized when, we've got to speak to a supplier in Manchester. Okay, so you've now got 3.5 hours each way for a 2-hour meeting. And there is and I will say it is typically the generation, half a generation above me, who are very married to, no, I must meet you in person. We must shake hands. I must look into your eye. It's like, yeah, but we're talking about the logistics of supplying lubricant here, or like machine parts. We can do it over a video call. We know we can. Maybe the initial one, but then after that, much more reliance on video conferencing, I hope. But yeah, going back to work, shock to the system. And I know you listening to all my radio stuff. Did you catch my Sunday show? Very different to normal.
You are a gardening god.
I am the gardening guru of Cambridgeshire. No, not in any way, shape or form whatsoever. The normal gardening guru is very, very funny and very brilliant presenter who's been there forever and ever called Chris. But he is 80. So he is shielding at home and self-isolating. So I sit in the seat for him. We have a two-way on the phone for like 10, 15 minutes, and he has a chat with me, and then he supplies a couple of pre-records for later in the show. But then the rest of the show, I don't know anything about gardening. So I get given a gardening expert to come on, and then I manage a call-in. So I took my first ever radio call-in, and I didn't get to tell anyone to turn their radio down, which was very upsetting.
Oh, that's sad. I
You
know you
do.
look forward to that in the same way that you look forward to correcting small grammatical errors of your children and asking them to pick things up from their floor.
Yeah, you're just painting a picture of a terrible person. But it felt so much different. So like normally, like I play, I don't know, eight records an hour. So it's a series of sprints. The song finishes and I suddenly go, oh, I've got 3 minutes until I'm going to play the next song. And you're trying to get everything you can out that you want to say. And then you're looking at the clock and you're kind of like, oh, God, okay, here's the next song now. And it's just like maybe like, 16 rocket launches in a couple of hours. Whereas this was very much, hello, Sandy. Sandy's having problems with her orange tree. Oh, tell me about it. And then you listen to them talking about their orange tree and then have a discussion about orangeries with the expert. It's all very serene.
I'm just imagining you trying to generate empathy for, oh, you're having trouble with your succulents. I'm so sorry to hear that. Maybe our expert can, like trying to generate sympathy for what's basically my daughter loves succulents. Like she
Okay.
has a whole window full of them. This is the only thing we can grow in the house. The cats won't
Never, I've not heard the term. What is a succulents?
like cactus, those jade plants, those sorts of
Oh.
things. A lot of water.
Oh, so
And
things that take
they
in
live
a
in
lot of
super
water.
dry, like cactus-like plants. And she gets very excited, and she's grown. We have like a small jungle now in pots on our the windowsill that sits over our kitchen sink.
You've got
And
a
I was
kitchen
trying to
garden.
I was trying to imagine generating sympathy, and then I realized that my daughter has actual sympathy for like all of her plants. They have names, and she gets very invested when they flower or bloom, or
What
and it's
I
a
that's,
tragedy if any of them die. Yes.
so what I am now. Now I'm invested because my wife started growing all the vegetables and everything, and I was like, ugh, that's lame. I don't care. And then they're like, oh, do you want to do the gardening show? And then suddenly I'm in the garden going, oh look, the potatoes are flowering. Should we start pulling them out? And she's like looking at me like, don't you get all invested now that you've got a garden slot on it. But it's like with any subject. Once you start being interested in it and paying attention, you suddenly start going, oh, I didn't know that. That's an interesting fact. And here we go. Here's one for vegetables from the Mirror. See, this is a news item. Where's my big dirty news one? Shall I just guess? No, I won't guess. Yay.
Big Dirty News.
This is from the Mirror, mirror.co.uk. Don't keep cucumbers in the fridge and other items that shouldn't be refrigerated. That's an actual news item, so it counts. So I was quite interested here, and it lists fruit and vegetables and whether you should refrigerate them or not. Shall I test you on your whether you should refrigerate them or not skills?
Considering my wife does all the cooking, sure, why not? It ought to be hilarious.
But don't you put things away, like after shopping? No?
Are you kidding me? If I put them away, my wife would just come
Yeah.
and say, "Where did you put that?"
Yeah, that's a good point.
And she's the one who does the cooking. She wants it where she wants it. Yeah, no, I've never been in charge of putting things away.
So I put the shopping away just this morning, and she came in from work, and she was like, have you put the stuff away? I'm like, yeah, I've put it away. You're not going to be happy. You're not going to be happy. You're going to tell me off, but I've honestly done my best. But here we go. Let's check with you. Here we go. What do you reckon? Cucumbers, fridge or not fridge?
Well, since the title is "Don't Keep Cucumbers in the Fridge,"
Oh, was
I'm gonna
it?
go with no fridge.
Oh, I forgot that was the title. Damn
Sorry.
it. And there's a reason I'm not a quiz master. But yeah, cucumbers not in the fridge. And I have always...
Why not?
I don't know. Hang on, let's see if it says...
That's useless.
when it comes to unpacking the shopping, few of us take the time, blah, blah, blah. One of the things which has surprised most people is cucumber, which is apparently meant to live in the cupboard, and people had no idea. But it doesn't tell us why. It doesn't tell us why, Daily Mirror.
Oh man. Well,
No.
now there's an opportunity for an interesting article.
Yeah, okay, so we'll do that next. But here, let's continue the test with ones that weren't in the title. Peppers, Matt. What about peppers? Fridge
No.
or no? You wouldn't put peppers in the fridge?
I wouldn't.
I always have put peppers in the fridge, and apparently not. You're not supposed to. There we go. Let's see which ones would surprise you. Tomatoes. I don't know why I'm...
No, we never put them in the fridge. Those always sit out in the sunshine to finish ripening.
There we go. Mr. Phil says if they go soggy if it's too cold. I think he's talking about the peppers there. We always put our tomatoes in the fridge, but apparently no. All right. Well, okay. Let's see if I can catch you out. Broccoli.
Yeah, we put broccoli in the fridge.
Yeah, correct. You're really good at whether you should put things in the fridge or not.
I don't mean to brag on myself. Well, okay, I totally mean to brag on myself, but you're essentially offering a multiple choice test.
Yeah.
And, uh, of all the things to be really, 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 really stupidly good at, multiple choice tests, I was always really good at, even if I'd never studied or had no idea what was actually being tested. I could generally pass any test you gave me as long as it was multiple choice.
Okay, fair enough. Hey, look, I'm not the only one struggling though. Sam there says I'm doing fruit and veg completely wrong. All right, so I'll just fire through a list and see if any of these surprise people. So the things to not put in the fridge: apples, avocado, banana, kiwi, lemon, mangoes, orange, peaches. Good. All of those are in our fruit bowl, and they've got listed as pumpkin, tomato, sweet potato. Our sweet potato is in the fridge. Potatoes not in the fridge. I definitely put potatoes in the fridge.
We never put them in the fridge.
Oh, there we go. Well, there we go. I've sort of learned something vaguely interesting there. Sorry about that. It just went down a tangent, and I can't remember why. Because your daughter was looking after her succulents.
Yep. It has become her thing. Like she has, when she was little, she had and still has a fairly large stuffed animal family. Not just stuffed animals, but and they all had names, and there was an entire universe. When we got a little bit older, we had under our Christmas tree, there were like these little houses and stuff like that. And my wife and my daughter set them up and then invented people who lived in them and an entire backstory for the entire city that they then wrote down.
Okay.
And then she started getting the succulents, and she's spawned off several and sent them to her friends, and they're overgrowing the entire house. But we got them originally because every other plant that we had, the cats would just eat and destroy. And plants are generally not great for cats, and they would just like, oh, did you bring home a thing? Oh, you put it in a corner? Oh, let us chew up the thing that is poisonous to us and throw it up all over your house.
Yep, our cats will eat any flower. Any flower they see, they'll start chewing on it. I think they just like to see if it's food, and then, it's not food, but it's already ruined. And there's only so many times you can do that to an orchid before it's dead.
Now, here's an interesting thing. My wife had seen on a cooking show that if you take the bit of the scallion that you don't chop up, scallion, spring onions, maybe them in the United States as spring onions, and just dunk them in a glass of water, they'll regrow.
No.
They will. And she's got a beautiful cup full of now kitchen-grown scallions that she uses in her cooking. But the cat likes to chew on them, especially in the morning. So this morning, the cat jumps up and is being mischievous, and she moves it over to where she makes her tea so the cat can't get at it. And the cat immediately jumps down and finds a leaf that has fallen off one of the plants we've hung up high where they can't get to them, and starts eating it. I mean, this is literally what cats do constantly.
Yeah, cats are a pain. Absolute pain. I brought up glasses of water for the bedside. So for me and my wife, we like to have a glass of water on the bedside. Should you awake coughing or something like that, or you can have a glass of water. And then you hear the little, the slurping noise. You go, what's that? What the heck? And it's the cat who's got straight in there. So we've now got to start putting little lids on our cups. Oh, real pain in the butt. And they were after the aqua dragons all day long. They were after the aqua dragons. They could smell, I think, the food we put in there, and they really wanted to get at it. But those of you who were, I know, interested in the aqua dragons, I am sorry to tell you that we were doing very well. We had hundreds of them, and it was all going fabulously until they all died. So apart from the complete obliteration of their society, it went pretty well. I think the water just got weird, and then the new eggs couldn't grow.
Next generation got wiped out.
Exactly.
An environmental cataclysm. I see.
Yeah, sorry about that. So no more aqua dragon stories. Sorry about that.
No lessons in that for us. But if we are talking about environmental cataclysms, this very morning I read something interesting about solar power and solar energy.
Okay.
And that a major investor is predicting that by 2030 or 2035, the price of solar power is going to be insanely, world-changingly cheap. And he's talking like pennies per kilowatt hour.
What year? 2030.
2030, like 10 years from now, 10, 15 years from now.
2030 sounds like a ridiculous sci-fi year, doesn't it? But it's not. It's in 10 years. Yeah, no, it's always been the case that the technology was going to get cheaper. And I think it has been getting steadily cheaper. And I know like more affluent friends of mine sort of towards the middle of the decade sort of just gone had started going, okay, from my point of view now, it's now, because I can afford to invest in the next 30 years, it's now got to the point where it's economically viable for me to whack up solar power on my roof. Whereas, you know, for us at the time, we were only looking like to survive a year or a few months ahead. No, it's not going to make a difference to us. But there's going to come a point where everybody up and down the economic scale, if you own a house and it doesn't have solar power on it, it's going to become, you're going to be losing money by not having your roof covered in solar power. And that will be on an industrial scale as well. So like a factory will want all their roof space to have solar power. And I think only when we get to the point where it's more expensive not to have it, that's when it will be the real tick over change. And if that's what this person is suggesting.
That is exactly what he says. Building new solar would routinely be cheaper than operating already built fossil fuel plants. That's what he's predicting in the next 10 to 15 years. Now, it is a prediction, not a reality.
So who's this guy and where's he from? What's his creds?
Ramez Nam, he's a clean energy advocate and investor, and he's been making forecasts about the price of solar power since 2011. So he would reasonably know his stuff because he's not blown himself up investing in solar power like so many other people have. But it was just interesting because I don't think I'd ever seen in print before. I mean, obviously, speculatively, one could say such a thing, but I don't think I've ever seen anyone commit in print to that kind of a forecast before now. But if I'm not incorrect, hasn't your country been operating without any fossil fuel powered energy for the last 30 or 40 days? Uh-oh. That's the I asked a question you can't answer face. Never mind. I thought I read it on Twitter.
It's fine. No, I mean, I'm pretty sure that can't be right because I feel like I would have heard about that. It could be something like they sometimes do things like, you know how they say, what is the date at which you've paid off your tax in a year? So, you know, you work until June paying off your tax, etc. So it could be something like that where the country has got to the end of a tax year and the amount of renewable energies we use could fill X number of months usage. It could be something like that. But certainly no, I didn't hear that we'd stopped using fossil fuels for 40 days. That would be huge news. No, I don't think so. But I think, you know, the people I trust on this kind of topic have been saying, you know, we still need a generation of nuclear power plants. So I think that estimation from your pal seems it seems too close.
Energy Live headline, UK power grid goes coal free for 2 months straight.
Oh, okay. I thought you said all fossil fuel.
Well, I mean, yeah, I would
Coal
assume
free,
that you don't
right.
have any petroleum powered power plants, that it's probably just going to be coal. So maybe natural gas, and then the rest is renewables or
nuclear. Okay. Well, that's good. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I'd missed that. I thought that would be bigger news. I guess when you said it in my head, I was forgetting about nuclear, and I was thinking that means that we've somehow been on renewables for, you know, exclusively. Also, we use natural gas as well. So there's that.
Yeah, natural gas as well.
Thanks, Sam.
That would fill the other end of it, which is a somewhat less damaging to the environment option. But really, it's all about whether or not we dig it up out of the earth, I think.
Okay, what is clear is both of us are out of our expert comfort zone in this conversation, but let's see if we can line up somebody who does know about these things. And I think Dr. Holding is going to be back with us within a couple of weeks. So maybe we'll save that question. We'll save that question for him. I like it when it's just you and I, because we can go down tangents and get to some of the stuff we've been wanting to talk about. I am now in the situation like you, where there's two ladies in my house who watch movies with me. And I'm going to be sexist and say I think this is a female trait of not trusting the movie. So my wife does not trust the movie to give her the information she requires. She seeks constant reassurance from me about what is going on and that she hasn't missed anything. So I'm going to say that is more of a female thing. So she will say to me, Matt, like, who's that guy? Where did they come from? Wasn't he in the scene? Is he a goodie? Who does? And I don't know, Nick. I'm watching the same movie you have. I've got the same information. Trust the movie that they are giving you the information at the time you need to enjoy it. But she doesn't. She does not trust the movie making process.
We're getting some agreement in the chat room with that. I will go so far as to say that it varies depending on the type of movie. For example, if we're watching like a complicated espionage thriller type movie, well, first of all, I won't be bombarded with questions from my daughter because she's busy on her phone or playing Switch and only pretending to watch to make us feel better about ourselves because her entertainment is elsewhere. But I will get constant questions. Wait, who's that person? What happened? What's this? What's that? What's this? On the other hand, if it's a romantic comedy type movie, frequently I'd be like, wait a minute, I thought that person was with the other person. And both of them will look at me and give me severe side eye. Like, how did you miss this growing, budding relationship in front of your very eyes?
So maybe it's more to do with the relative attention that you give it. So whilst you might not be giving the romantic film your 1,000% focus, perhaps during an espionage film, my wife is not, looking at the minutiae and the details and is less familiar with the format and the genre, perhaps. But my problem is now that little Vivi, 8 years old, is starting to watch with us. And as a family, we're starting to watch more adult films. So films in the kind of certificate 12 might sneak into our viewing. We look at the parent websites. And there's a lot of 12s where they go, well, if you don't mind this kind of mild threat or violence, then it's fine. Or they say they will use the S word 2 times and there's some snogging. And you go, oh, okay, well, we don't mind that. So we can, watch that film. So as we start to watch more adult films, it turns out she's exactly the same. And she has yet to figure out, my little Vivi, that if the character is like the title character, like Thor yesterday on our Marvel rewatch, Thor is unlikely to die in the first 10 minutes. So she spent like the whole movie being super concerned for Thor going, Daddy, no, he's going to die. I can't watch. I'm like, we're 20 minutes in. The movie is called Thor. He's going to be around until at least the end.
Oh my goodness. That's hilarious. I'm torn because on the one hand, we participated in that whole series in real time by going out to the movie theaters. And it was only after the very last one that both my wife and I discovered that my daughter's favorite character was Iron Man.
Iron Man, nice. Oh, no. Oh, no spoilers. Yeah. Be careful of spoilers.
Yeah, but you understand the tragedy of that in the theater at the end of the very last one. And she's still heartbroken about this. But there are alternate universes that were brought up within it. So I have this sneaking suspicion we have that there is no end to the story.
You can't trust
in a traditional linear fashion, if you know what I mean.
Chat room saying Team Thanos. No, he was the baddie. I'm not sure I have a favorite. I think there's deep down in me, there's a very idealistic soul that resonates with the doggedness of the sort of Captain America character. And although I don't share any of the Captain America type things, like USA and patriotism and that kind of thing, the whole thing of defending yourself from bullies and standing up for what is right, that draws me to Captain America. So I think deep down, there's the Boy Scout in me. I think he's my favorite if I've got to pick one.
Yeah. We're getting some pushback in the chat room. People saying their husbands happen to be that way, not so much them. So it may be more of there are just 2 types of movie watchers in the world.
No,
I don't know.
No, I'm sticking with it. I'm sticking along my sexist. I'm keeping with it. Do you know something else sexist? I tweeted this morning, but I'm sticking with this as well. I've uncovered a worldwide conspiracy. Now, I'm not normally a conspiracy theorist, but this one is definitely true. Mm-hmm. Did you catch it?
Hang on while I buy some tinfoil stocks.
Huh? No, you don't need to buy.
I replied to it.
Oh, okay. Here we go. Here it is. Wives, stand by for this. And it is just wives, yeah? Wives hide our stuff, Matt. They hide it, and then when we can't find it, they call us stupid, and then they magically find it because they knew where they hid it, and then they go, oh, haha, look. You didn't know where it was. You're stupid. You're not looking with your eyes properly. And then they phone up their friends and they laugh and they went, ha ha, I got him again. He was looking for his comb for 20 minutes and I'd moved it. And then I was the one who found it. And then I got to call him stupid. And he was so sad. Ha 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 ha. And then the friends on the phone going, ha ha, that's brilliant. I'm going to do that to my husband now. And that's what they all do all the time.
Tom Wheatley says, my wife must sneak into my shed and do that.
Mate, it's bad. It's bad. Like, there's no way I'm that bad at looking for things after 4 decades. And I think she moves things to hurt me emotionally. And that I'm sticking by that.
I'm laughing at that. I saw that and I'm like, I'm not alone. I've been thinking this for years. And it's like, I get it. You know, there's always someone who cleans up. There's always someone who can tolerate the less chaotic environment. And if you were that person, then you pick up and move things. Then the other person, like for me, I would wander around when I was living on my own, and I would have phone conversations because back then we didn't have other ways to talk to people. And I would leave stuff in the strangest spots, but I could always find it because it was exactly where I left it. And as soon as it gets moved, like I could leave, I don't know, let's say I could leave a half full glass of beer on the 4th shelf of the bookshelves.
Okay.
And I could find it 3 days later. Like, yes, that's where I left that beer. I think I will go finish it now. But if you moved it 10 inches to the right or left, it's like literally
blind spot.
You photoshopped it out of my life. Yes. Unbelievable.
But when I tidy up too. When I put her stuff away, like I know, like the slippers, I put them away in the same place. They, and by they, I mean all of them as a generalization, they maliciously put it somewhere. Or I think they put it where they think it ought to go and not where I like to keep it.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. We would tend, I don't know, do you ever get stuck? I don't know, I get stuck because sometimes I have to cook. Now, my wife loves to cook. Cooking is her thing. Mm-hmm. Now, this is related to our topic at hand, I promise.
Okay, good. No, that's fine.
But we had our kitchen renovated, right? So before our kitchen renovation, I knew where all the things lived. After kitchen renovation, different cabinet space. Now things go in different places. And sometimes I'll be left with the cleaning up. And I'll be like, okay, I got this off the dish rack and I cooked with it, but now I have to put it away to put the rest of the dishes on the dish rack. Where does it go? And the answer is wherever I can find room for it, but it's almost certainly not the right place. So I have to go in and I have to tell my wife, I have to say, look, I've put things away in the kitchen. If you are looking for a thing and cannot find it, just come get me because I'm almost certain the place I chose to put it would not be the place you would have put it.
See, I'd never want to admit that I wouldn't know. So like when you haven't done a certain job for a while and you realize it needs doing and you go, right, I need to find, say, I don't know, for an example, the dustpan and brush. Oh, well, let's say the bin bags for changing the bin. And you go to the last place that you saw bin bags ever. And then you go, hey, honey, where's the bin bags? I can't find them in the drawer. And like, they haven't been in the drawer for 3 months. That shows when the last time you changed the bin was. So I never want to ask. So I would never just admit to that, Matt. Otherwise, you're showing up how generally lazy you are.
Yeah, but I don't know. My wife, and this may not be a characteristic that your wife shares, but my wife loves to reorganize stuff.
Yeah.
Loves to reorganize every so often. And when we were childless, this would be generally a once a year, let's change a room. Let's put a couch over here. Let's move the TV over there. Let's do this. Let's do that. And this was fine with me because, you know, it would make things different. And sometimes you'd find better configurations for stuff. My daughter is very, very, likes a lot of stability in her daily environment. And so my wife had mentioned the possibility of taking her living room and moving it into our dining room and vice versa, because the dining room is actually the larger room and is more comfortable to sit in the evening and has better airflow. And you would have thought that we were suggesting moving to an entirely other country, taking away all of her internet and never letting her see her friends again. It was like the wife brought it up. My daughter got a look on her face, and then it's never been discussed since.
Honestly, I told you about our blue sofa, the one that we bought from like a second hand when we had no money a decade ago. And we wanted to get rid of that. And they cried. They were like, no, not the blue sofa. It was horrible, this thing. That was the sofa that I hacksawed in half, by the way. And they were just, they felt like some stability in their world was being torn away from them.
It's like it's entirely animate. Do you know the worst decision I ever made with my daughter?
Having her.
Okay. One of them.
Oh.
They had a recycling composting event for Christmas trees. Now we do Christmas every year, and we go buy the sustainably farmed trees that they sell up on the corner because it is Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, let's go. They're going to take our tree and they're gonna recycle it and use it to feed the other trees in the park.
And she was like, no.
And this seemed like a really good idea till she saw the tree going into the chipper. And then it was tears.
Tree
it was
murder.
all tears. Oh, it was. I was like, wow, I really thought you would like that, but I think that was probably more me that liked it.
Kids are stupid, aren't they? God. Tell you what, this has been fun, and it's absolutely flown by. I like that we keep a slot aside, guest free, to go down these tangents and these paths. We've got Lauren Thomas, Girl Running Late, joining us on Thursday, Matt, so we can talk some more fitnessy stuff too.
Yeah, I can't wait to ask her my question. Is it a good idea to just randomly double your mileage on any given day when you feel like it?
Yeah. I'm gonna. I don't know. Actually, she's up for challenging herself. I know she's done things like assault courses and things like that too, and been exploring lots of different fitness options. And since she can't see me or be witness to my scales in the morning, as far as she's concerned, I have also been keeping up with my healthy fit routine. Unless
Yes,
you tell
well,
on me. So
No, I would never purposefully tell on you.
I always do. I've done quite a bit of fitness in the last couple of weeks, and I thought I would be rewarded on the scales. And I've deliberately been avoiding the scales because I was just like, oh, it's going to be bad news. I'm not going to bother. So I stood on the scales this morning feeling reasonable. Nope, exactly the same. And I went, curse you, scales. And I'm like checking the feet of the scales and going like, maybe it's on like uneven ground. Is this calibrated? Where's the calibration certificate for this? But there's always a bit of a lag when you sort of do a bit of a lifestyle change both ways. There's always a bit of a lag, and it's dangerous the other way too, because you can start, spending less time doing exercise and eating more food, and you go, psh, I'm invincible. It's doing nothing, and then suddenly it just goes boink, and then you go, oh no, I'm fat now. How did that happen? Oh yeah, all the lack of exercise and loads of food I was eating. So there is a bit of a lag the other way as well. Obviously, we started off the show talking about the recent tensions, the Black Lives Matter marches, the statues, race issues, none of which we planned to talk about. I was just going to say hello. But the second I opened my mouth, I realized that both me and Matt wanted to get some of the stuff at least off our chests.
Yeah, and I think hopefully other people feel the same way, because it is weird. You consume all this stuff on social media and you're not talking to your friends in real life, and just being able to say, look, this is how I feel. This is how it is, and it is wrong, and it's time we did something positive about it. It's sort of been shoveled off into a corner way too long.
Or just from a general mental health point of view, I think it's okay to say these world events that have nothing perhaps specifically to do with me, but I see them every day on the news, I see them on social media, they make me feel things, they make me have a reaction, and it's having an effect on me, and it's affecting the way I am with the rest of my life. It could be giving you anxiety, it could just be making you angrier, it could make you feel despondent about your friends. I had a friend recently come to me and talk to me and say, I didn't realize that my close circle of friends held generally racist views until I saw what they were posting on social media. And because everyone now feels like they want to post their opinion, I've suddenly realized, how did I have my friends for so long not knowing that they had views where they wouldn't consider themselves racist, but I'm looking at the things they're saying and I'm thinking that is a racist view, and it doesn't match with me. And so there's all these different stresses and pressures coming about from what is an extraordinary open time that we're in with social media. And I think it's okay and actually important to go, it's causing me stress and I'm sad and I just want to get it off my chest. So that's how I felt, and maybe other people do, but we'll probably drop it for now.
Fair enough. Stuart Neal says, remain indoors therapy session. And
Well,
John
yeah,
Pollard
sure.
agrees. I thought that's why we were here. Absolutely. To help deal with the stress of this unusual situation that has put all of us outside of our routines that normally help keep us comforted, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know. I've had a viewpoint from the 80s and 90s from growing up in a mixed family and seeing the reaction of people, you know, on the streets to our family. I've got a lot of buried and not so buried anger about it. I think I will take to the keyboard and I shall do a blog that 4 people will read on the topic.
I think ranting on the keyboard is an excellent way to go. Can I recommend a positive for people?
Okay.
You know, we were talking about movies, and you know, I have this, I don't know how other people are at home, but I have this period of time when everyone else has gone to bed where I'm still awake.
Yeah, you said, yeah.
And so I have my own personal viewing that I have just for myself. And I always try to pick things that no one else will be interested in but me.
Okay.
And I recently watched a documentary called Quincy about Quincy Jones on Netflix. Now, I don't know if you've seen it, but I watched it and it was so good, so amazing that I actually told my family, you know, I think you got to watch it with me. And I'm happy to watch it for like the 3rd time because it's like that good.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a mild corrective for yourself, I highly recommend go find Quincy, have a watch, enjoy. The music is incredible. And I had no idea, even as a musician, how much of our modern acoustic and soundscape he was responsible for. It is remarkable what he's achieved.
And of course, I guess, you know, in different times to the ones we're in now, we had a very similar movie viewing experience. We realized that because we so rarely sit down and just watch films together now, we always go for the big blockbuster. So it turns out now the only films we watch are space explodey, fighty, punchy ones, because if we're going to sit and watch a movie and put it on the projector or the big screen, we want it to be that kind of cinema experience. So we've gone out of our way to try and pick films with actors we like that we would not normally watch. So we found one with, I've forgotten both actors' names, but it was the actor from The Road, something Mortensen. Anyway, the book is called Viggo Mortensen. Viggo.
Yeah.
And it's called The Green Book. I think it's called The Green Book. And The Green Book was a reference to where black people could stay on the road in the South. So if you were on a tour, sometimes the white performers would have to stay in one motel, the black performers would have to go to a different motel. And so The Green Book was this Italian-American chauffeur's guide to where he could escort this virtuoso black pianist, musician, and be his like tour manager going around. And they decided to go around to the Deep South. So the black musician, he actively chose, he wanted to go to the Deep South. I think he wanted to address, you know, some of those issues and balance some of the wrongs that were going on at the time. Loads of issues I had no knowledge about. Loads of the prejudice and racism. You've obviously heard of it, but like it's not something we can imagine. Where literally a black guy would go into a restaurant and they'd say, "No, you can't sit down," and he's like, "Yeah, but I'm the main performer today," and they're like, "Yeah, but it doesn't matter." And although they're smiling at you, once they pushed it, you know, actually the guy would be like, "Come on, you know why you can't eat here. So stop being ridiculous." So obviously, you know, eye-opening is not the wrong word, but it was just a good movie as well. So the character interactions between those guys, but not the sort of film we would normally watch. And then a couple of days later, all of this stuff started kicking off as well. So Green Book. And what was your one?
Quincy.
Awesome. And I'm
Quincy
getting
Jones.
the Jotma is saying The Green Book is good. So there we go. Whew, hope no one was triggered. Hopefully we weren't offensive in any way, apart from our lack of knowledge of UK power production. I've got some reading to do on that. Follow Matt online at MattPT55. Follow me at Spanners Ready the Show, at Indoors Remain. You can be both our Facebook friends as well. Look for Matt Trumpets on Facebook and look for Richard Reddy. We will be back here on Thursday with Lauren Thomas. Not just talking fitness, more lifey stuff. Generally complaining about things. Until we see you next, work hard, be kind, and have fun. And just for a little bit longer, where you can, remain indoors. Cheers, guys.